him also, because he has two loyal servants dedicating their lives in a marriage arrangement to him. And it really helps us to appreciate how that arrangement came about. In the beginning of creation, Jehovah provided the provision of marriage. And what he did, he looked at it as having lasting benefits for his earthly children. So when he created the perfect man, Adam, Jehovah knew that he would need a helper. He would need a complement. So what he did was he created Eve, and he gave him the commission to fill the earth with happy people. And that's how we all feel today. We're happy for you too. So when he brought Adam and Eve together, marrying them, he helped us to see the importance of that. So we're going to look in our Bibles at the first scripture today in Genesis 2, verse 21 and 22. It says here, so Jehovah God caused the man to fall into a deep sleep. And while he was sleeping, he took one of his ribs and then closed up the flesh over its place. And Jehovah God built the rib that he had taken from the man into a woman, and he brought her to the man. Now that was the provision that Jehovah made, and that was a permanent union, a bond that he had established at that time. And that was between them both that he did that. Now if you look down at verse 24, it helps us to appreciate why you two are becoming a couple today is one in union, because it says, that is why a man will leave his father and his mother, and he will stick to his wife, and they will become one flesh. So since Jehovah did that, imagine the joy that Jehovah had to create Adam and Eve and bring them together in a marriage arrangement, and the joy that he's having today when he looks down at you two. It makes us all feel good to think how important and how precious that is in Jehovah's eyes. So how will you two make your marriage last in love and happiness? Well, there's a simple formula to this when we think about it. First of all, we need to make sure that you put Jehovah God first in your life above all other things. And also, we need to take the advice that he gives you and apply it to the things through his word, the Bible. If we do that, it's going to make the marriage successful. And we think about the marriage arrangement. It says in the Bible that it's likened to a threefold cord. That means, Johnny, you and Amanda will become two parts of that cord. But Jehovah would become the other strengthening part to that cord. And that's something that we always want to keep in mind, that Jehovah is always part of our life, beyond today's marriage arrangement. When we consider that, what does that do for both of you? Well, that strengthens your bond with Jehovah, but it strengthens your bond with each other. Because everything that you do, you want to do it in recognition of honoring your God Jehovah, our God Jehovah. He's special to each and every one of us. I like how this is brought out for us. If we turn in our Bibles, Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verses 9 through 12. It makes a real nice point here. That's Ecclesiastes 4, verses 9 through 12. It says, two are better than one because they have a good reward for their hard work. For if one of them falls, the other can help his partner up. But what will happen to the one who falls with no one to help him up? Moreover, if two lie down together, they will stay warm. But how can just one keep warm? And someone may overpower one alone, but two together can take a stand against him. And a threefold cord cannot quickly be torn apart. So that it helps us to appreciate that Jehovah is the third part of that threefold cord. That it's you two working together in your marriage. It's really going to keep that bond together. It's going to solidify your love. And it's going to help you to appreciate each other that much more. Think about when both of you were young and you were growing up. Who did you rely on? You relied on mom and dad, right? If something went wrong, you ran to mom and dad. If you needed a question answered, you knew mom and dad could answer that question. The same goes with Jehovah. When we have a question, this is where we go, right here. And Jehovah answers that question for us. Why? Because he knows you too better than anybody else in this audience. In fact, he knows you from the beginning of creation when you were born. So he knows the physical attributes of you, and he knows your mental and emotional state. So it's good that we go to him in recognition to that. Also, that simple formula calls for some things to be done together. And these are really important as a spiritual family. You want to study the Bible together, you want to pray together, and you want to worship Jehovah together. If we do all those three things together, just imagine how strong that bond is going to continue to get. It's going to get to the point where nothing can pull it apart, because we have Jehovah as our God, that we honor him by doing these things. So Johnny, we're going to look at you this time here, and how you can gain great respect as a husband. Jehovah now is appointing you head over your family. That's a big responsibility. So he's counting on you to make sound judgments in the things that you do and what you say. And when you do that, he wants you to take care of it in a way that's loving and kind when you and Amanda discuss issues. Always think about this. When we get married, we think we're the man, we're the head of the household, we run the show. 90% of the time, that's not how it works. The wife has a great influence on us, but when we work together, it really helps us to appreciate how that is worked out. I think you as a person here, you're going to be a great provider for Amanda. You're going to give her the things that she needs. You're going to make her happy. And when she's happy, you're going to be happy. So that's the way we look at this here. There's going to be things that you're going to really have to put emphasis on. The material things in your life, the spirituality that you have, the emotional things that go on, the discussions that you have, the things that you talk about, and also recreationally, you're going to have to do things together. So if you put those four parts together right there, that's going to, again, bond you closer and closer. And there may be some times that you're going to have to do some things that you don't like. And believe me, when I tell you this, just go with it. Because it becomes much easier when you do those kind of things. It really helps you to get along that much better. So we don't know what that's going to be. That'll be down the road as time goes on, but you're going to see that there's going to be things that you're both going to have to share life together. You're going to have to work on. And when you do it, you may say to myself, you know, I'm glad I did that. That really helped my relationship with my wife. See, the strength in your marriage is you becoming a good example as a spiritual head. That is going to be the most important thing. Taking the lead in spiritual activities, not putting pressure on your wife to do these things, but to do them together. You have to be the one that takes the lead. And Amanda's going to look to you to do that. So that just makes you a stronger family head as it is, because you're doing exactly what Jehovah wants you to do. So it doesn't mean that you're going to be the tyrant or the boss, but you're going to be the loving husband that helps her out and brings both of you together in unity as you discuss these things and work on them together. You know, Christian headship is an important facet in our life. It really defines us who we are as Jehovah's people. But it really puts great responsibility on you as the husband to be able to take care of your wife. Remember, love is what we need to think about first, beyond everything else. We don't want to think about things that take place throughout the day without recognizing how important it is that we show our mate love. And really, that's a good attribute for a spiritual man, a family head. And when we do those kind of things, it makes things run smooth. That becomes the most precious part of your life with your wife, showing her love. It gives her confidence in you as the spiritual head, that she can always look to you for the direction and guidance that you need. And we're always admonished to follow Jesus' example when we do things such as this. And a good way we can look is how he felt in matters. Let's look at Ephesians chapter 5. First of all, verse 25. Then we're going to look at verses 28 and 29. So Ephesians 5:25, it reads, "Husbands, continue loving your wives just as Christ also loved the congregation and gave himself up for it." In verses 28 and 29, In the same way, husbands should love their wives as their own bodies. A man who loves his wife loves himself. For no man ever hated his own body, but he feeds and cherishes it, just as the Christ does the congregation. So think about Jesus. Jesus looked at the congregation as something very special. He gave his life for the congregation. Everything that he did was focused on taking care of Jehovah's sheep. And that's the way it is with you too. You're going to be focused on taking care of your sheep, your single sheep. But you're going to look at the congregation as a whole too, as something that you can help out as a spiritual man. And what will that do for you, Johnny? That'll help you to be a refreshment to all people. They'll look to you as a spiritual man and they'll say, this is the type of person that I can confide in, that I can talk to. And what's that going to do for Amanda? That's going to build her confidence because she knows you're working hard to please Jehovah. So just think about how much you love Amanda. We're going to talk a little bit about that a little bit in this talk here, but the Bible says that a Christian husband should love his wife as he loves his own body. And we know that no man ever hated his own body or did anything to defile it. So in your case, we need to think about things that are real, something that's important. Not every day is going to be peaches or cream. Or I could have said chocolate and strawberries, and all these sisters here would have liked that better. But that's an important thing to think about, because you're going to definitely have differences. Because we're imperfect, things aren't going to work as perfectly as we want them. So what's going to be the key to be able to work those out? Well, one thing is we don't let anger in anything that we say or actions that we do overtake how we feel. I thought this was an interesting point. A circuit overseer's wife told my wife and I one time, she said, every time her and her husband would have a disagreement or an argument, one would have to say to the other, I love you more than you love me. Then the other one would say that. They might have said that 10 times. But what did that do for them? That helped them to overcome the difficulties they were having. So I'm not telling you to do that, but that's good direction. I mean, whatever it takes to make that work, that's what we want to do. We want to make sure that we don't let that be something that festers inside of us. And don't be afraid to express yourself in that way. The kindest and the most tender thing that a husband can do is to make sure that his wife knows that she's loved. And when she knows she's loved, it makes life so much easier. And that's what you want to think about, John. Now, Amanda, the Bible makes a point that a wife should show her husband dignity and honor. Likewise, Johnny looks at you as the weaker vessel, but yet again, you look at him as the family head. So when we mentioned in the beginning that you'd be a compliment to him, being a compliment encompasses a lot of different things. I think about it. You're not inferior to him. You're his complement. You're not down at a lower level than he is. You're right there with him. So these are the things you want to keep in mind. That sense of worth is what bonds you two together. How much you consider loving him and how much he considers loving you, and then making it work. That is the most important thing you want to do in that marriage. See, your recognition of him as being the family head is without a doubt going to promote marital success and happiness. So let's appreciate that thought in Ephesians 5:22 through 24. Ephesians 5 verses 22 through 24. It says, let wives be in subjection to their husbands as to the Lord. Because a husband is head of his wife, just as the Christ is head of the congregation, he being a savior of this body. In fact, as the congregation is in subjection to the Christ, wives should also be to their husbands in everything. So here's a good point to remember today. Relative subjection is a divine command from Jehovah because it's for human good. So in a situation like that, when you show subjection to your husband, things will work out in a positive way for you. So always remember that. That's something that Jehovah instituted for all of us. And we realize without leadership, the result could be we could have discord in the family, confusion, and even unhappiness. So your deep respect for Johnny is going to be shown by your cooperation with him and with completion of the things that you do together. Again, in the book of Ephesians chapter 5 and verse 33, it spells that out real nicely for us. That's Ephesians 5 and verse 33. It says, "Nevertheless, each one of you must love his wife as he does himself. On the other hand, the wife should have deep respect for her husband." So what were the two important words in that scripture? They were love and respect. When you have that for each other, then everything is going to go real good for you. Okay? So, and we know one thing for sure, Amanda. Johnny's going to make a lot of boo-boos in life. But you're going to have to be there to support him. Kind of hold him up, help him along. Maybe soothe him in ways, it's okay. We're going to get through this. But the best thing about it is you work things out. So what do we need as a husband and wife? What's important that you two need? You need good communication. You can't sit on something yourself and think you're going to accomplish it. Always include each other in whatever it is. Things become a lot easier when you work those problems out together. And when you do that and you're done, you'll know that Jehovah had a part in it also. Because without prayer, we can't be successful with anything. So it's always good to be able to use him as someone that helps us to be stable in decisions. Being a helper, like I said, you need to be supportive. And I know you two are going to do that. I've already seen that with the way you two act and the way you care about each other. So that's going to be a special thing to think about every day. Your actions and your demeanor are going to contribute to much in making your home a pleasant and a happy place to live. So in a sense, if Johnny's at work all day and he comes home through the door, what do you need to have on your face? And it's not makeup. You need to have that smile just like you're smiling now. See, that makes his day feel a lot better because he's home with the one he loves the most, puts the cares behind him. Now the evening belongs to you two. So that's a good thing to think about. And for Johnny, he should never come through the door without a smile on his face. So we'll work on those. I'm sure you will. You're going to be able to see that because you're going to be a team. It's going to take a team effort to be able to do the things that you're going to do to accomplish. But remember who's the captain of that team. It's Jehovah. So with him, he's going to help you accomplish these things in life. The goals that you set, he's going to help you get to them. When there's disagreements, he's going to help you work them out. Because we always got to rely on him to help us first. He's the one that's going to make things successful for you in your marriage. So be supportive of one another because that's the most essential thing there is. Now this is my favorite part of this talk because what it is cultivating deep love with each other. And really this is a defining factor that really helps us to solidify your marriage. In Colossians 3 verses 12 through 14, we're going to turn there. It uses terminology there that helps us to see how we can build a lasting bond forever and ever. So let's turn there together and we'll see how Jehovah expressed that thought in Colossians 3 in verses 12 through 14. And this is good for all of us here today to understand how we can appreciate the loving direction that Jehovah gives us. Okay, Colossians 3 verses 12 through 14. It says, accordingly as God's chosen ones, holy and loved, clothe yourself with the tender affections of compassion, kindness, humility, mildness, and patience. Continue putting up with one another and forgiving one another freely, even if anyone has a cause for complaint against another. Just as Jehovah freely forgave you, you must also do the same. But besides all these things, clothe yourselves with love, for it is a perfect bond of union. So when we put clothing on, what does clothing do for us? It protects us. when we put that quality of love on, one of Jehovah's greatest qualities, his greatest quality, love protects us. You know, it enhances the wearer. I mean, just look there. That had to take your breath away. It did to mine. But this is just one day and many to come. So we really care about how our wives look, how we present ourselves, and all these things together. It's an important facet of what our marriage is all about. So I ask you to tell me what drew you to both together, and also why you have so much deep love for one another, and where you see yourselves in the future with one another. So I'm going to use you first, John. What drew me to Amanda? This is what you told me. You said, what initially drew me to her was just seeing little bits of her personality and the way she insisted on bringing me out of my shell. But what really drew me to her was her completely random and frequent acts of kindness and generosity. She always put others before herself and never had anything bad to say about anyone. That's pretty special. Then I asked you, why do you love Amanda? You said she is simply amazing. In every way, she's amazing. She can always get me to laugh and brings out the best in me like no one else can. She's always there when I need her and always has a way to change any of my bad days into great ones. She's changed my life for the better in such a way that the thought of going any further in life without her doesn't seem possible. She is my everything. Then I asked him, where do you see yourself in the future with Amanda? He said, I see an extremely bright future ahead of us. I see us serving Jehovah until the end of this system and forever after that. And with Jehovah's help, there is no limit to what both her and I could accomplish together. Those are some pretty special words. Now, Amanda, what drew you to Johnny? It was how shy and humble he was, how he loved the people in his life, and he never tried to be something he wasn't. He was always himself. Why do I love Johnny? I love Johnny because he's my best friend. That's a great thought. He makes me smile and laugh. He listens to me when I am down and wants my opinion before making a decision. That's a family head. Already was in the works. He tells me how much he loves me and needs me every day. And he loves Jehovah and his family and friends. So where do I see myself with Johnny in the future? I see us being happily together serving Jehovah forever. I see us growing together every day and growing closer to each other at the same time. I see us working through problems and finding solutions. I see us being happy together forever. That's what makes a good marriage, how you two feel about each other. I mean, that's a tremendous feeling when you think about it, because how you feel about each other should be something that permeates through your whole body for the rest of your life. So here's some important and strengthening points that needs to be applied to make your marriage strong and loving. One is to look for ways to show love for your mate every day. Start the day off with a kiss and a hug. Let me tell you, that works wonders. And when you do that, it's going to set the tone for that whole day. Next, set aside time daily to talk together. Remember, if you don't have communication in your marriage, the marriage could fail. We know that. We've seen that with others. And that communication daily is making sure you're talking to Jehovah too. He's got to be part of that talk. Next is make it a habit to show kindness in little things such as tender words and acts of affection. You never can say I love you enough in your whole life. You can never hold and hug your wife more than you can even imagine. Those are important things. So when I look at you as a man of your stature, you could wrap your arms around that little girl and hug her. It's going to make her melt. Because those are the kind of things our wives need each day of their lives. So we have to provide that as husbands to do those kind of things. Make her feel like she's melting in your arms. Make her feel that warmness that you have about you. I know that's what you have in you. I know you now that you're a very warm and affectionate person. And when you do that, it's going to make Amanda feel that she's loved every day. So by doing these important things in your marriage, it's going to cement the bond of love and happiness together. And the third thing in it's going to cement is that you're honoring Jehovah God. One thing we learned at our district or regional convention, we learned one thing about love. Love never fails. As long as we have love in our marriage, we're going to be able to be successful. Well, the time's come for all of us we've been waiting for. So I'd like you to stand, you and your bride, and also your two witnesses. All right. Okay, Johnny, I'm going to start with you. Do you, Jonathan Hartman, in the presence of Jehovah God and these witnesses, take Amanda Bertetto to be your wedded wife, to love and to cherish, in accordance with the divine law as outlined in the Holy Scriptures for Christian husbands, for as long as you both may live?
I do.
Okay, Amanda. Do you, Amanda Bertetto, in the presence of Jehovah God and these witnesses, take Jonathan Hartman to be your wedded husband, to love and to cherish and deeply respect, in accordance with the divine laws outlined in the Holy Scriptures for Christian wives, for as long as you both may live?
I do.
So who gives this woman to be married to this man?
Her mother and father.
All right. So now we're going to get to the real nuts and bolts of today. Okay. So I'm going to go slow, so you're going to be able to follow along with what I say. I want you to repeat what I say. Okay. All right, Johnny. We're going to start with you. I, Jonathan Hartman, take you, Amanda Bertetto,
I, Jonathan Hartman, take you, Amanda Bertetto,
to be my wedded wife,
to be my wedded wife,
to love and to cherish,
to love and to cherish,
in accordance with the divine law,
in accordance with the divine law,
as set forth in the Holy Scriptures for Christian husbands,
as set forth in the Holy Scriptures for Christian husbands,
for as long as we both shall live together on earth,
for as long as we both shall live together on earth,
according to God's marital arrangement.
according to God's marital arrangement.
Okay, good job. Okay, Amanda. I, Amanda Bertetto, take you, Jonathan Hartman,
I, Amanda Bertetto, take you, Jonathan Hartman,
to be my wedded husband,
to be my wedded husband,
to love and to cherish and deeply respect,
to love and cherish and deeply respect,
in accordance with the divine law,
in accordance with the divine law,
as set forth in the Holy Scriptures for Christian wives,
as set forth in the Holy Scriptures for Christian wives,
for as long as we both shall live together on earth,
for as long as we both shall live together on earth,
according to God's marital arrangement.
according to God's marital arrangement.
We have some rings to be exchanged. So these rings that were exchanged is an outward and visible sign, signifying unto all the uniting of this man and this woman in the bonds of matrimony. For as much as Jonathan Hartman and Amanda Bertetto have covenanted between Jehovah God and these witnesses to accept each other in wedlock, I, as an ordained minister and by the authority conferred upon me by the Holy Scriptures in the state of Ohio, pronounce that they are husband and wife together What God has yoked together, let no man put apart. So let's offer a prayer to Jehovah.